the Dianonix death trap, and how to exit party um, 2. A portal to the home universe. I'm full aware that this is the first time any of us intend to break out of um, the alien invader prison, and I'm aware that it is scary for most people. I would say for all people. No, not for me. I'm okay. I'm not scared of anything anymore. I would say for people, though perhaps more so for more than for others, everything that deals with the unknown is frightening to some degree. No, not for me. When we've been to hell and back here in this very existence here, we're not scared anymore about anything else. The same fear hits most of us when we try to induce an out of body experience, OBE. There is a fear of death. Induce, yeah, everything forced, no good. It's best when it's natural, like what I had. This fear is embedded in our 3D bodies, and therefore we all have it to a certain extent. Also, much of what I am writing about in general can seem scary to many to begin with. But once that fear is overcome, inner competency and peace replace the fear, and we move to a higher state of consciousness, closer to our real self. The fear mechanism that implanted in our bodies by the AIF scientists are becoming more and more deactivated, and the DNA that is dormant inside us begin to light up one strand at a time, because we had 12 strands and they have removed the 10, left the 2. Although DNA is also a construct in the physical universe, yeah, it still is connected to our consciousness. It's often difficult for researchers to share what they have discovered if the information is negative, because they are afraid that people will consider them to be fear mongers. In the past, I used it to think that way too, until I took another look at myself and saw what I had gained from taking part of the so-called negative information, and the gains were quite substantial. If I could gain from it, others can too, I thought. We all just need to go through various stages of emotions, including anger, before we reach the other side and stop being reactive to things and replace our reactivity with inner peace, something that happens automatically over time. We would generally need to know both the negative and the positive sides of things, or we'll only know half of the story. Yeah, we also live in a construct of polarity, so you can't exclude one polarity in favor of another. Yeah, and fall into zealotry, which will be very like hypocrite, or even take sides, being partial. But when it comes to exiting the death trap, we don't need to be afraid. After all, we have died thousands of times already. Nothing new, so there's nothing new. I don't understand. To me, there's not even death to begin with. You understand? Not the painful one that we have right now, where the soul want to come out, the body pushes it back again. The souls want to come out, the body pushes it back, and then you see like a rubber, you see it's a wall. The soul want to get out, but the body brings it back again. Do you understand? So it becomes a very painful death for many of us. It didn't have to be this way. Long time ago, it was not like this. When one wanted to die, we just off singing or go to sleep and then die peacefully. A door would be open and that soul just that not say soul but the entity will just get out and be free once again, and then we return to another body to continue existing and not say exist but continue put things into practice through the body and experience one more time. The only thing that's new is that this time we want to try something outside the norm. This time we have an opportunity we've never had before because the grid that surrounds our planet is no longer intact. Yeah, the ozone, they call it the ozone layer. But actually there's many means for it because it was a uh, ley line, is a quarantine um, done on purpose by aliens not to allow others to come in by the Anunnakis, not to allow others aliens in and then to help the people here. Now the grid has been opened, thus the ozone layer that they lie about to you. Okay? So now that it has been opened is either allow good or bad to go to come in and the soul to go out to exit. Last time the soul stay, the poor things stay here uh, aprisioned either in their houses where they died or in the cemetery or any other abandoned places. Okay, because when they tried to exit they couldn't, they feel that they were trapped and around them were all fire. When they opened that door they will see fire or other very strange realm and they couldn't get out because that was a hologram given to them to see and be scared to get out. You understand? So as a result, these poor things would remain in houses and buildings, asking for help, asked to be released, and there would be what they call prayers recited for that soul, and then they will come, the invaders will come, they themselves in form of angels, to capture their soul and bring them to their center, the Anunnaki center. Okay, right now no, the grid has been opened, they can get out, but where they go there's a problem. Now that they know the grid has been opened, they try to conceal it. Some have concealed it, partly have concealed it by now. Okay, his gang have had repaired, fixed some. They have repaired some of the hole. It's not as wide as before because they don't want the soul to get out and other aliens to come from outside. Do you understand? To come to their beloved farm and matrix. So um, nowadays the soul can go, but then the other side also is not safe because over there is a zone, it's a very twilight zone. It's very messy also. It's no better than here on earth. Okay, it's very dangerous the other side for those people who are not prepared. So so it's better to stay here on earth anyway. Worse for worse. When it comes to exit the death trap, we don't need to be afraid. After all, we had died. No. I don't believe that. The only thing that's new is that this time we want to try something outside the norm. This time we have an opportunity we never had before because the grid that surrounds our planet is no longer intact. Primarily because there are some of us humans who have raised our consciousness to a level where we partly vibrate outside the limited frequency band we call the third dimension. Thus, there are now holes in the grid that act like portals leading straight out of the frequency prison. The grid now looks more like Swiss cheese than an intact electromagnetic field, as much as things appear to be more dire now than perhaps ever before on our planet. The opposite polarity is also true. We have a small window where we can finally get out after this. That's good, very good. Before they can paste it back again, then we have no way out anymore. I'm afraid of it, so whoever want to escape just go now. Those who are dying by COVID or by anything, by the electromagnetic, the EM frequency, that they call virus, is able now to free. They are free to go, before they decide to patch it back, patch the hole, because that's once the magnetic field to prevent other aliens from coming and we from X this planet after death of the body. And I mean of this information and knowledge, you're not gonna find in religions and cults. You see spiritual cults, satanism, you're not gonna find, because they don't tell you. They tell you what they want you to know and not what there is. Understand? So those who came to this material, you are lucky. But the rest is up to you. You are not forced to accept or to believe in what's being passed here. And a much more follow. You don't need to follow if you don't want to. The global elite, who I call the controllers, ET hybrids in the highest level positions, are known to regular people and the minions, humans who have some knowledge of the real agenda and work for the controllers and the overlords, know about this. And of course they say, oh, it's a ozone layer, is a global warming, ozone layer. No, it's not. It was done on purpose by some others from the other multiverse on purpose for them to come in and we to get out, or the soul to get out. And of course, so do the overlords. The logical question would be, why don't the overlords repair the damage by simply elimination, after which the grid might go back to being more or less intact? Yeah, that's true. After that, they're gonna close. There are many reasons for that, and here are a few of them. Even if they would kill all of the millions of people who are waking up, they would only kill our bodies. We are still part of the 3D hologram after body death. And our consciousness level remains, and so do the holes in the grid. The overlords can decide to annihilate the soul, mind, light, body complex, as explained in the Weispenner paper. But that would violate the law of free will because it's unprovoked, and the perpetrator could get in deep trouble. Will they? I doubt it. The overlords probably didn't anticipate that the holes in the grid would be discovered for what they are. And if someone accidentally escaped through one of them, what could be achieved through them would not be understood. Accordingly, the discarnate soul would still run for the death trap and get recycled again. But just a part, it's not the complete, it's just a part of it. We would compare this to the bird who has been caged all its life and is not even considered that it can live outside of the cage. Therefore, if you open the little door of the cage, the bird would still decide to remain inside. Or if it fly, it will be caught by predator and beaten up. However, I'm not the only one who has seen the cracks in the prison wall. And thus, the cat is already out of the bag, or the bird is out of the cage, we must say. Now, we just need to use our soul wings and fly away. The overlords are working on bringing humanity into the singularity, and they understand that there will be some spill on the way. They probably realize that a few of us will escape, and that's acceptable. But many who actually could escape will get cold feet when it boils down to it, instead opt for what they are used to, following the spirit guides into the trap and that fake tunnel over there and get it recycled again because this might feel safer for them. They do it because they have no other options. Also because they are not complete after death and they feel like they are being sucked. You see, the vibration, not say the vibration, the magnetism is very strong. The pressure which beckons them to the other side of the tunnel is very, very powerful and strong. It's just like a vacuum sucking you. I already have been through this. I know what is it. Okay? It's going like in spirals, head down. And most of the time they want to bring you down to the center of it. It's not center, the bottom of the earth. All darkness is you go into spiral, head down. It happened to me many times. Many times I have this recollection. It was my past, not past in another life, but this same life when I almost died. Okay, and I had this experience of going headed down to a very dark abysm, like a water spiral. You know the water spiral that will pull? Yeah, that one. But once the other side, you can see that there is other parallel world, and the darkness becomes less dark and more illuminated. What about the minions? Will those who know about the holes and the greedy eggs through the holes too? This is highly unlikely because they are afraid that they would be judged for their crimes against humanity on the other side of the grid, and that they would lose the power they feel they have here on earth. I don't think, I'm sorry, I disagree with that. If the Matrix belongs to this Luciferian Enki and his team, inclusive his darling sister, who might be the princess of Orion, no, it's darling sister lover, if they work for them, who said that they will be charged? Who said? Will they? I don't think so. After all, they are all in it together. And who gives a damn for us? I doubt that anybody gives a damn for us. They are correct on both accounts. Also, they not be welcome in Orion except to stand trial. I don't believe. I'm sorry. They will be welcomed. Hey, friend, come in, please, in here in this place. Our Orion Palace. You are welcomed for your good deeds. You work very well for us as our minions over there in that planet. And now is your trophies. And now we'll assign you all to go work for us in another planet, in another clusters of the universe. How about that? That's how it will be. And not how this person thinks here. This no thinks. This person is journey, is traveling. And imagination is not true. When relatives and friends die, we usually miss them and perhaps grieve them, sure. We feel a loss, yeah, and we wish we could see them and be with them again, sure. The overlords are well aware of this, and they have played on our emotions since they manipulated the Homo sapiens into being in the first place long ago. By scanning eyes at our death moment, the afterlife staff, so-called grace or angels, the Anunnakis angel will come, will sometimes be in disguise and sometimes not. Depend if you are dying, then they'll come in disguise. If you died already, they'll come as a true form because you cannot get out, come back to tell. You understand? So they will appear, and the first moment they'll appear as your dead mother, daddy husband, daddy father, daddy son, daddy daughter, etc. Your loved ones. Okay, they'll appear to them. So that when you meet a incarnated person, another person, you say, "Oh, I met with your mother, or I met with your father, I met with your sister, or I met with anybody else, with a loved one, with my mother, my father. I guess that I may die. I don't have much time." You understand? If they were, you had to say, "Hey, right now I saw a gray aliens right now here, or a Draco," then everybody will be petrified. Although there has been some accounts in Asia whereby how to call that race? Is a Indian Bengali. His religion, I'm not sure about his religion, but before he died, he had a experience of seeing a entity, a black large entity, winged, black large and winged. This man died in a very terrifying way. He died holding the Nancy hands. He asked her, for God's sake, not to leave her alone because she was petrified. When the nurse turned another way, she saw that creature in the corner of that dark and cold room. It happened a long time ago, I think in the 70s. It happens, but it's not a common place. It's not something that is very. It's not something that's routinely occurring. When relatives and friends die, usually means, okay, the afterlife stuff so great will sometimes be in disguise, sometimes not. We'll know who your loved ones are. In order to solidify the trap, the deceased may see a projection of a loved one who comes to greet her. This is usually enough in order to seduce the soul into entering the appropriate astral dimension. On occasion, if the loved one is still on the other side, the soul may actually be the one greasing the recently discarnate. However, it's gonna depend how long they have been dead, because nowadays have a timeline, timing. There's a timing now, timer from 6 months to 1 year. However, for the deceased, it's almost impossible to tell the difference between a holographic projection and the real souls of the relatives and loved ones. As I've mentioned many times before, it is impossible for humans to imagine how advanced the alien technology is compared to Earth technology and all that. This one's mediocre. Here is nothing compared to what this entities got that this side. The technology here is nothing. It's just that this kind of radio made of a battery radio that very small that you had in the 60s, just like that, compared with the very fast pace technologies that they have. They even use the mind to communicate. They use mind and more use an apparatus. The spirit guide could also take the form of a loved one, an old friend from the recent lifetime, or even a pet. They come to the extent when you don't love nothing, you don't have nothing anymore, and you love your pet, they come as your dead pet. They are so desperate. They're so desperate that they try all avenues. Over my lifetime previous to that, sometimes there are more than one spirit guide. So I won't take up space here to repeat this information, especially because this article is discussing how to avoid the trap. not the details of the trip. Car reunion. I've been here already. I remember, all full of bright stars, very beautiful. The sky was very blue and painted with silvery stars, more than here. And the beans just walk. They don't walk, they float. And I imagined myself to be a conscience that they were not able to see. They were not able to see me. Shadow reality. The most important thing is to ignore whomever approaches you once you separate from your physical body and death. This is where focusing comes into the picture. I can't emphasize enough how important this is in order not to get distracted. Because the afterlife stuff has more than likely scanned our energy field before or at the death moment. They also know what our plans are. They are not going to stop us by force, but they might try to distract us and to manipulate us into following them. It's very easy for them to get us to give them permission to suck us into the tunnel of light that leads to another center, the Anunnaki centers, or what the naives think that is a spiritual center or a hospital or whatever. Or however they want to bring you to the next afterlife station. This is why it's so important to learning how to focus before we die. In other words, start the process today. I'll discuss how to focus in the design sections below. Instead of paying inattention to anyone regardless of who they might be or appear to be, you concentrate on what is above you. You'll not notice that you now have a 360-degree vision. But when I wrote above, I mean in relation to where your dead body is. Above you, you'll see the grid. It may be fast or more solid, depending on your focus. But that's relatively important. Once you've spotted the grid, look for holes in it. You should be able to see those almost instantly. Choose one of the holes. Choose the ones of the holes, focus on it, and put out the thought and intention that you are now going to nano travel through the hole and land in the void of car. Whatever term you prefer, be aware that you will show up on the other side of the hole instantaneously, and experienced as you might be, you may not even be aware of that. You have reached your first destination until you have re-entered yourself. Oh, go to this holes here. What you will experience next depends on your willingness to see what is really there. A totally ignorant soul who potentially would go through the grid would only see the solar system and dark space. In a way, we are supposed to see these things while still in the hologram. Such a soul would soon be approached by spirit guides or gods, be told that she has wandered astray, and she would then be escorted to an afterlife station that they are not supposed to be there at all. They will say that you are not supposed to be there, and they will take you by force. And you have to be sent to another place, or you call purgatory or whatever, and then later sent to the center after being physically or mentally massacred, bullied. God's choice depends on the belief system of the discarnate. So if you are a Muslim, you will see a lot of masjid. If you are a Christian, you will see a lot of churches, or others will see temples or whatever. Okay, if you are none of this, you are agnostic, you just see the space, that's it. The readers of this article have hopefully also read at least part of the WPP, hopefully also my book. Okay, once on the other side of the grid, someone who is aware, most readers of this article, would see the universe the way it really looks like. You will probably see something that looks similar to a luminous spiral web, where the web consists of highways and trade routes between star systems and galaxies. I have seen that. However, there will be no darkness anymore. You will notice that what we call dark space is now lit up and occupied, similar to a lit up room. What's going to be in this endless room that I call the car void, and science calls dark matter and dark energy is anyone's guess. I really don't know. There is a star there in some beams, some structures. Other than that, it is going to be a huge surprise and not what we might have expected, limited as we have been, operating with only 5 senses. Nonetheless, the car will re-stimulate what our souls already knew in the past, before we were trapped. We all have the heart beams once upon a time, so certain familiarity will also be present. It's my guess that you will look at this in a way and have a great sensation of homecoming and happiness here. We feel like I cannot describe ecstatic, a sense of ecstasy of being there. We don't want to return. It will probably feel a little awkward to begin with, but you will soon become very familiar with the new view of the universe, our true home, and we are free at least. It's important to understand that in the car we don't need any spaceships or other vehicles to travel around. It's all done by using our thoughts. Yeah, we use our thoughts, but we are there. At the same time that we use our thoughts, we are there. Therefore, it's very important to be able to focus on thoughts. If your thoughts remain as dispersed as many people are today, you will soon notice that your thought will take you all over the map and you will end up somewhere unintentionally in the next moment. You'll find yourself elsewhere and then you will jump around in this fashion until you think to yourself, okay, it's time to focus, stop. At that moment, you will stop bouncing around. Next, focus your thought, one thought only, on where you want to go. For example, to the gates of the Orion Empire. Whoever want to be there, not me. Then imagine in your mind how it would look like. It doesn't have to be correct. Just create a pure intention that this is where you want to go, and then go. And that way, you will end up where you actually wanted to go. As a side note here, do not worry that you will get lost in the universe, because your thought can always take you back to where you started if you wish. There's no such thing as getting lost unless you act in an ignorant soul, but if that were the case, you would not have experienced the real car when you went through the graded way. Thus, getting lost is not an issue. I will bring this up in greater details in one of those subsections below. As part of the human soul group, you will be welcome into Riot unless you have created a lot of harm and lived lifetimes being very destructive and engaged in serious criminal activities as your soul's common modus operandi. You will soon realize that the soul you thought were you on earth is only a very tiny part of the real you. Indeed, I knew it a long time ago already. And I don't think this all right and so perfect and so right in a way. Indeed, your earthly personality is not your real personality at all. Of course not. It's just your analytical mind, the ego that will build up here on earth as you went along. And yeah, and we need it here. Not the other side, need it here. The real you. And the individual soul springer. And the complete knowingness of being one with the creatics. And that you act in the heart and your soul experience by using the entire composite of experiences from the time when you were born as a spirit up until your most recent experience. Then you will build from there on. But you are doing so from a constant now because all time is simultaneous in the heart. Everything exists in an ever changing now. The other soul is planet that are part of you and are still stuck on earth, on other timelines, in the past or the future will be called back to the oversoul once their current lifetimes on earth are completed. These people don't like to break things, to simplify and breaks all this very difficult concept to understand. This might even be the case if one or more of your contemporary soul splinter get stuck in the singularity. What I believe this person tried to say here, but make it so complex and difficult, and I don't like to go around the bushes, is that this soul splinter that they're talking about and they're stuck in the timeline in the past, in the present, future, blah blah blah, is your ancestors who are somewhere there. You understand? To be precise, your ancestral or Jews who are left behind when you passed on, you go away. Do you understand? Is your relatives that they are talking about here, but they make it so difficult to understand. It will be our descendants and our ancestors who are left behind, or our descendants or ancestors who are left behind. Now, with access to the heart dimension, you can create your thoughts, travel by thought, communicate with thoughts to other beings in the heart, and mingle with other spirits by either participating in their creations or start your own and having others joining you. There will be no limits other than to create yourself. Your purpose is to go out and create and learn how to do this from new perspectives as you go along. All the experiences that one soul spring has will contribute to the whole, and thus the divine feminine learns and grows in infinitum. I don't know. I have some feeling about it. The human, the human soul group was created by the Queen of the Stars from the internal spiritual body. With the purpose of participating in the human experiment that was later hijacked by her son Lucifer Inc. He's not her son, he's a stepson. Or she could be, I don't know, if he's not stepson, then he's his sister, half sister and wife. And his rebels, whom we sometimes call the fallen angels or the Nephilim. I don't know, I don't think it's correct. Therefore, we are considered inexperienced in comparison to many other spirits in the heart. However, just as it is here on earth, beings in the heart are learning as well. In the WPP, I discussed how many star systems, star constellations, and perhaps even entire galaxies work in a similar manner to our Earth universities, where beings can study and learn more in order to further increase their abilities as creator gods. The Orion constellation is one such university, although that's not its only purpose, of course. And it's not the only também, also, not the only one. What about Sirius? What about Lyra? Huh? What about many other constellations? What about it? What about what's so special about Orion in the this reptilian queen for? And Key is not her son, biological one. The husband, the King Anu's sons, a slave. There are a few of the multitude of things that we can look forward to when we exit. Amazing as it may seem, we will experience total freedom for the first time in about 500,000 years, 80 years. No one will tell us what we'll have to do. We are our own creators of our reality, and creativity will be rewarded and not punished, and so often is the case here in 3D. So in this sense, whoever do crime also will be rewarded and not punished. But again, once we are evolved, there's no reason to become stupid and do stupid things like killing, harming one another, etc. Once we are evolved, we're gonna discard it altogether. Understand? So that's why there will be no need for rewarding or punishing. As mentioned above, focus is the key when we enter the astral realms of physical death. You may be one of those who is skilled on how to be focused and can disregard distraction in order to concentrate on a certain task. If so, you are to be congratulated because it's quite rare in today's world where we learn that we need to multitask at all times. Multitasking itself is not necessarily bad. Just split our mind into different factions, where one faction does a different task than another, and a different faction can still work in unison to accomplish certain goals. The bad thing with multitasking to this society is that it is also related to negative stress. I don't have stress by multitasking because already it's from I, so we multitask, do many things at once, and we don't feel nothing, we feel pleasure. This will overwhelm the mind, and instead of focusing, the mind disassociates to cope with all the situations where excessive multitasking is required. In the long run, the mind gets scattered and the thoughts are all over the place. The person now has a difficult time keeping a conversation going and stay on the subject. We see this in people all the time, of course, because these people happen to be what they call they are how to say autistic. They are autistic people. Then you want to judge now autistic people. Autistic people cannot focus, they cannot concentrate, and they are always doing many things at one time. And that's not something bad, but something different. They begin discussing subject A, and without completing the concept, the discussion takes another turn and then another. In a matter of minutes, the conversation is on 5 to 6 different subjects simultaneously, and some subjects are dropped in the middle of the replaced by another. Yeah, if they don't forget, they'll go back to square one. I'm like this. Nothing wrong with that. Human is very judgmental woman. We need to understand that all thoughts we create and everything we say have consequences. The blah 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 again. Just relax, woman, relax. You're not going to escape here alive anyway. We constantly create different potential timelines that drift around in the ether as incomplete. All these incomplete communications remain connected to not only the person A who initiated them, but also to the people who are subject to them through person A's incomplete thoughts. This can become very confusing for everybody involved, and it drains energy from the individuals who are subject to this. Thus, people sometimes feel very weak and tired after they have talked to certain individuals. You feel this way if you care. Just don't care. This is very common, unfortunately, and you would all gain from practicing your ability to remain focused. This human is very pushy. I don't like people like this, very pushy, bossy. The way to do is to clear our consciousness from all irrelevant thoughts that are constantly drifting around our minds. Sometimes it's just that thoughts, but other times these thoughts can actually develop into complete voices with complete sentences. On occasion, a person may recognize some of these voices as the voices of people they know, but more often the voices are familiar to that person. It could be aliens or schizophrenia, is mental disease, who knows? If you hear voices in your head, then there's something wrong. Many people have thoughts in their heads that are not their own, although many people think they are. We pick up thoughts from others without being aware of it, but we also create our own incomplete thoughts that can become thought forms that put around in our minds and get re-stimulated and brought to life. Thus, we hear these voices and thoughts inside our heads, and some of them are destructive and parasitic and need to be replaced by positive symbiotic thoughts in order for us to feel safe and sane. There are few things on earth as rare as a silent mind, unless the person is continuously meditating and is an expert in protecting himself or herself. So don't meditate. If you meditate for what? If you want to be silent forever. This is very ironic and inconsistent. It's important to recognize one's own thoughts and distinguish them from other people's thoughts. This is true both when you are alone and when you are in a crowd of people. Some of us are more sensitive than others when it comes to picking up thoughts from other people's minds. But regardless, we need to practice recognition of the various thoughts, much like stations on a radio. You can really only listen to one station at a time. So, to be sure to pick a good one, and if you tune into a nasty one, just change the channel. Therefore, to begin, think of something, it doesn't matter what. Focus on that thought and recognize it and see yours. Then sit still in silence for a few minutes. Thought float around. I don't want to talk about this. Very boring. I don't want to think about this. It's so much. This is too much of. This is very stressful. Even to be like this, so when you live with patterns, you have to do this. Must have rules and patterns. It's so commonplace, it's so stupid, so ordinary that gives more stress to us. So it's better do things in our own as we go along, and then we learn from it, and then can make it perfect. That's how I think. I don't like this nonsense that all set it up already, all already figured it out, planned, figured out. I don't like all this nonsense. Just go there and learn by yourself. What can you do? Only stupid morons like have some programmed kind of mind need to sit down, focus, think, planning, and everybody must follow suit. You cannot go outside of that line. Must always follow suit in that pattern. And I don't like it. I don't fit in this pattern. I'm so sorry. Sorry. So that's for number what? Party 2, I think. Party 2. Yeah, party 2.